All right, Nick, welcome back to the show. Episode 3, short story long with Marnie and Nick.
That's right. Feels like a really long time since the last one, to be honest. It's only been
Yeah,
a week, but feels like a long time.
absolutely. A lot's happened in a week with both of our lives, I guess. And we're sort of taking a step natural progression out of uh, episode 2, where we're talking
Yep.
about the loneliness epidemic and how we can use these different tools and tactics to kind of branch out and meet new people and expand our connections. And what that really helps with is the human need of connection, or love and connection, as it's framed in the 6 human needs. And today
Mhm.
we're going to expand out of just that one human need. We're going to talk about all 6 of those human needs, and then talk about some goal setting examples that are sort of specific to us, related to those 6 human needs. How does that sound?
That's it. It's about taking life. What is it? What's the saying? Taking life by the horns, taking the bull by the horns,
Yeah,
grabbing life by the balls. I don't know, something like
yeah,
that.
sure.
One of those.
Yeah, they all mean the same thing. So whatever floats your boat, yeah, use that one. Definitely. So yeah, having some sense of direction, sense of purpose, and then wrapping your goals around that, rather than just going, oh, it's the start of the year, I'm supposed to be making some goals, and then just sort of writing something at the back of a napkin and then forgetting about it, a few weeks later because it doesn't resonate with you. So yeah, we're going to talk about the 6 human needs, which I found out about through Tony Robbins, who was really the first guy that I started listening to in the self help space about 10 years ago. And this thing, the 6 human needs concept, it stuck with me throughout the entire last 10 years, even though I've gone on to read more, I guess, sophisticated things in the self help space and stuff like that. At the end of the day, like nothing sort of beats the conciseness of the 6 human needs, in my opinion. It's so easy to remember that you don't need to sort of go back to the books to figure out what it was that they said. You can kind of just rattle them off the top of your head and sort of figure out where you're lacking. And also, one thing that it helps me with is relating to other people. Because the cool thing about the 6 human needs is, as Tony Robbins says, it relates to everyone. So everyone is out there trying to meet these 6 human needs. They're just meeting them in different ways. So when you meet a person that you go, oh man, that person is so different from me. How do I even relate to this person? It's like an alien to me. If you kind of peel back the layers of the things that they're doing and try to figure out why it is they're doing what they're doing, you realize that you're both sort of trying to get these 6 things. You're just going about it in very different ways. So it brings us closer together, helps us understand one another,
100%.
which is another beautiful thing about this. So without further ado, let's talk about the 6 human needs. But rather than me just going through all 6 at a time, that kind of be the short story long version. We got to do the long
Long
story.
story short
Wait,
version.
no,
That's
we got to do
it.
the other way around. But yeah, we got to do it the short story long way, not the long story
Oh
short
yeah,
way.
that's right.
I totally
Just
butchered that one, but the listeners of this show understand what we're talking about. It's the title of the podcast
that's it.
at the end of the day. So we're gonna start off with the first human need, which is the need for certainty.
Certainty.
So this is like the
Right.
most like Captain Obvious thing, right? We all need a certain level of certainty in our life. If I'm living in a house that is structurally
Mm.
unstable and I don't know if the roof's going to fall down on me any second now, I'm not going to be able to concentrate on anything else. That's going to be my number one priority, right? So
Yeah.
the need for certainty is absolutely there in everyone. Now, how much certainty you need is different for different individuals. And so some people might need a lot of certainty. Everything sort of needs to be controlled and regimented. And if anything sort of goes out of order, they have like a really nervous response, right? So you'll have people like that are putting a lot of time and attention into this need for certainty. And then the other people that are, once you get the basics sort of met in terms of food, clothing, and shelter, they're sort of done with that human need and they spend most of their time focusing on the others. But I'm
Mm.
curious to know, with you, Nick, when you think about certainty, what's the first thing that sort of comes to your mind in terms of the ways that you get that met in your life?
I mean, when you said that, it's like I'm just thinking of the perfectionist and like the happy-go-lucky.
Mm. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfectionist, like I need to control everything. I need to control all variables, etc., etc. And then like the happy-go-lucky's like, whatever happens, kind of such is life. I think I don't know. I said that to someone a whole bunch in like the same sentence or in the same breath. I said such is life like 5 times. But
Right.
essentially, the way I meet certainty is, as you said before, I think like how I think of things is in a similar vein, like Maslow's hierarchy, for those of you who don't know what the 6 needs are, but Maslow's hierarchy is very similar. At the base level, you need like the security side of things. You need to make sure that things are stable. They are like, basic things that needs to be met. And certainty, I think certainty will cut across a lot of different things in your life. So certainty of relationships, certainty of like, your parents, that sort of stuff. Certainty of like what Mani said, your home, or your domicile, if you will, what you're going to do, who you are as a person, all that sort of stuff. And I think that's like well, as Tony Robbins said, that's like the most fundamental thing. If you don't have certainty in that, well, everything's going to be a little bit not so amazing. Let's
Yeah.
just say that.
Yeah, you're going to be a bit of a wreck, right? So, and this kind
Yeah.
of relates to some of the other stuff that we've read in this space. Like, if you read like 12 Rules for Life with Jordan Peterson, one of the rules is literally get your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. And
Yeah.
what he's really trying to get you to do there is control the controllables, right? So, if you're feeling this sense of angst and discontentment, what it could be is the fact that your life is in chaos and just dealing with the immediate surroundings, the things that you have perfect control over, you'll find that that will give you a state of calm. And what you're doing there is you're controlling the controllables. If you have everything in perfect order in the room that you're in, you know where everything is. You kind of are the master of your domain right there. It's going to do a lot for you. So don't underestimate this human need. It's only one of 6, but it is an important one. So yeah, that's kind of the first one. With the second
Funny
one,
thing, I was going to
yeah,
jump in really quickly.
yeah, go
I
for it,
was
man.
literally listening to a podcast today, Aubrey Marcus. I think that's
Yes,
his name.
yeah,
He was literally talking to this guy about certainty and, people wanting to be able to like control everything in their life and all of that, right? And the advice was, look, I'm not saying it's good or bad advice. It's just advice that he gave, and I have no connection to the guy.
yeah,
He said, if you want to build some like mental resilience, right? If you're trying to like always control stuff, if you want to build mental resilience, get yourself a dog, like a puppy, and they'll just like tear everything apart. And then on the days that they don't, you're like, oh, I'm actually very grateful that this didn't happen. They
okay,
had a whole bunch of funny stories
interesting, yeah,
of just like all the random things that have happened because they got a puppy. Like, oh, the puppy like chewed out the sofa and like chewed out the shoes and all of that. And on the days it doesn't happen, they're like, oh man, thank God, this is great. Didn't happen. And that's kind of
wow,
how people
okay,
can get a little bit more certainty in their life. Or maybe it's just like they need to build a bit of mental resilience in
yeah,
that sense.
yeah,
Maybe I'm
that
one of those people because I hate animals. No. I don't
right.
hate animals. I hate the instability of things.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah, so I am the same way with pets. So when you said that thing, like that piece of advice that Aubrey Marcus gave, I couldn't disagree more. Like it's one of those things where I go, really?
Just,
Okay, so
just
I,
like,
I get the sentiment. It's like make life more difficult for yourself so you come out of it stronger. So you're introducing adversity into your life. Um, where it doesn't really apply is where you've already got some adversity that's like naturally coming in, then you're
yes,
introducing more, and then you're
yes.
now preoccupied with this adversity in your home, which makes you
Pandemonium
then,
is not recommended.
yeah,
That's for
yes.
sure.
So I have listened to Aubrey Marcus on a few different podcasts and things like that. I think I do disagree with him in a few different
Mm,
ways,
mm.
although he's a very successful guy. So, definitely listen to his stuff and get your own opinions out of those. But yeah, definitely, I would say having the control over the things that you can control is definitely worth doing. And look, if you're someone listening to this
Yep.
podcast and you want to get a pet, it's probably not because you want to increase certainty. It's maybe because you want to increase connection. So that is the third human need, which we'll get to in a second. And so
Yep.
that's often the key selling point of getting a pet. It's not so much to improve your certainty in your life, because definitely they are going to throw a spanner in the
Yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah, that's for sure. Wait,
So,
which brings
yeah.
us to point number two,
Yes, go on. What is
uncertainty,
it?
variety,
Uncertainty. That's right,
right?
variety.
Uncertainty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this
So
is where human beings are complicated, right? Because we just said we need
it's
certainty, and
so
that's a
weird.
human need, but we
It's
actually also need uncertainty slash variety. So
mm,
it probably makes more sense if we label it variety as opposed to
yeah,
uncertainty. Uncertainty is the variety you don't want, right? So, but variety is the
it's called
positive
problems,
connotation.
mate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So we all have problems that we begrudge. But if
Yep.
imagine if you had no problems in your life, everything went to plan, and you just had this schedule. Everything went to schedule. You just perfected your day and just kept doing that day after day after day. After a while, you'd actually get very, very bored, and
You know
you'd
what's a good
become very
example?
discontent. Go for it.
Truman Show.
Yes. Oh, excellent movie. Yeah,
Truman
yeah,
Show. Yes.
yep,
Good movie, slightly creepy.
yes,
But yeah, that's like talk about consistency.
yep,
Truman's Day is like there's
yep,
no uncertainty, no variability, nothing. I mean, of course, until the very end, but like
yep.
let's not ruin it for everyone.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was very just clean cut. Everything was very that's that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you start to see Truman sort of unravel. And
Yep.
look, that is a movie, but it's a award-winning movie, and it really
Means
depicts
it's
what.
right if it won
Yeah,
awards, right?
yeah, 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 exactly, exactly. So yeah, definitely, this is a good example of someone who just had a lot of certainty.
Yep.
Everything was curated so that they wouldn't sort of question what was going on until something
Yep.
happened to go wrong, and then they questioned everything.
Mhm.
But in terms of uncertainty in like our lives, for example, I'll use myself as an example. I think I lean more to the side of certainty than uncertainty. So when I talk to people that really like uncertainty, variety, they always say things like variety is the spice of life. And then they listen to some of the ways that I try to live my life. There's that disconnect. They don't really understand,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what is going on there. And all that is just different people have a different tendency. They either
Mhm.
lean more towards the certainty or lean more towards the uncertainty. So a typical example of like a personality type that I come across that definitely values the variety is they often don't sort of stick to one pursuit over an extended period of time. They struggle to do that, but they dip their toes in like many different things.
Yeah.
So, you'll see them go, "Oh, I really want to pick up learning the guitar or something." And then they'll go do like a few lessons, and then they'll just like collect dust. And like, "Oh, I really want to go do rock climbing." And they'll
Mhm.
do a couple of those, and then it'll like fade away. And when you ask them at the end of the year, like, "Hey, like, how do you feel your year went? Like, you did a bunch of stuff, but you didn't actually excel at any one thing because you didn't stick to it. You kind of did a bunch of different things." They don't actually look at that as a negative. They're like, "Oh, yeah, I had a good year. I did a bunch of stuff. I lived my life," sort of thing. Whereas
Yep.
when I
Agreed.
do that, I always go, "Money, you need to focus. Like, just pick one thing and get really good at that. And so for me, it's about excelling and just picking the one thing and then get really good at it. Now, eventually, I add to that. I don't just do one thing for the rest of my life, but I sort of get to a certain point of competence before I get to the next thing. But I realize not everyone is like that because their
Yeah.
need for variety sort of overrides that need for certainty. So,
Yeah, dude.
yeah, this is kind
That,
of an example that I come
that's
across all the
so
time.
that's so interesting because like Yeah, I'm that guy that does a little bit of everything.
Interesting. Okay. I actually don't
Look,
think you're the most extreme example of that, dude.
I'm
I
I'm I'm
think,
definitely not the
yeah,
most extreme. Like
yeah,
in terms of, I think the one thing that's very consistent in my life is just like training
yes,
and healthcare, like my job. Like I'm in healthcare, right? So
yeah,
like, well, aged care now, but like those two things are fairly consistent. Training more so, and then like everything else in my life is fairly like, all right, relationships pretty consistent.
mm,
It's just like the activities part. So
yeah,
like hobby side of things,
yep.
dude, it's just whatever.
Inconsistent. Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
super
Yep.
inconsistent. Just like, oh, when I was a kid, I wanted to learn drums. I learned it for about 5 seconds,
Yeah,
and then like, nah, I can't be bothered.
gotcha.
Played
Yeah,
badminton for a couple of years. Nah, like I can't be bothered.
yeah.
And then guitar. The other day I told you about what's that instrument? Cajon.
The cajon. Yeah, you
Yeah,
you were
I
interested in
spent
learning
about
that.
5 seconds looking at lessons. I was like, yeah, probably not practical. And I was like, and then last year I was like, oh man, I want to rock climb. So I did for about 5 seconds.
Oh
And
wow. Okay.
then, so like, so in terms of, I think I think you have to like, before you do all these things, right?
Mm,
You have to clearly define it.
mm,
Like there are some parts of your life where you need to do that sort of stuff. In my case, hobbies, whatevs, man. I don't really care.
yeah.
In terms of like what I'm actually trying to achieve, no, no, no. You can't do that. You can't be very like, you can't have too much variety in that sense of like, you can't jump around and stop just intermittently.
Yeah.
You have to stick to it. So
Mm,
I get that part. But I think yeah, you have to pick and choose what you're doing. So like, and then in terms of like all the other stuff that I do outside of work, like as in professional stuff, so like the study, the sitting on the board and all that sort of stuff, like that gives me variety as well. But like that's stuff that I have to stick to finish.
yes.
So I do have quite a bit of variety in my professional life as well, but it's not things that I can like pick up for 5 seconds and stop. It's like the moment I commit to it, I have to commit for at least the next like 2, 3 years before I
Yeah.
can say like, nah, I'm done.
Ah, yes, I got
Yeah.
it. Yep, yep, absolutely. So I think the reason why I didn't sort of put you in that category of the extreme variety person is you got that stability in your job. It's like a standard working
Yeah.
hour, 9 to 5. Then you've got your training as well, and we've talked about your
Yep.
training before in greater detail than we do in this podcast. But you're kind of doing this structured training that's based on like
Yeah.
getting to a certain weight by a certain
Yes.
date and things like that. So
Yep.
what you eat, how much you eat, when you eat,
Yep.
how much you sleep, all that stuff is kind of like structured around certainty. Whereas a lot
Yep.
of
That's like the
people,
serious stuff.
yes,
The
whereas
serious stuff, you need like certainty.
yeah, a hundred
The
percent.
not
But
so serious stuff, just
the
whatevs.
vast majority of people, they just kind of winging it when it comes to what they're eating. They're like, oh, I'm hungry. What's available? Eat that. Oh, I'm tired. What time is it? Midnight. Okay, maybe I'll go to sleep now. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that are kind of winging these things and just leaving it to chance, whereas you're kind of controlling a lot of the controllables. So although you have that side of you with the hobbies where you're just looking at like that's kind of time that I'm sort of throwing away and I'm just going to
Mm.
do whatever tickles my fancy in that current point in time,
Yeah.
getting your variety from that. I think the majority of your day is actually quite structured. So I would
Yes.
put
Yeah, it
you
has to
on
be.
the bucket of slightly more on the certainty side than
Yeah.
than the uncertainty side. But yeah, that's really interesting. And one thing you said about getting the variety within the things that you do consistently is very true as well. So this is what people need to understand. People that fear adding more regimentedness to their day because they don't want to lose out on variety. I
Yeah.
think you can look at it like, let's say, let's use the learning the guitar as an example. If you think like, oh man, that's gonna be too regimented every day. I got to sit down and like play the guitar for an hour. It's like I'm sitting down in the same spot with the same guitar and playing this thing for an hour every day instead of just doing whatever I want to do during that time. But what
Yep.
you need to realize is every time you play the guitar, now day to day it may feel very similar, but over time, like next month, you'll be playing a different song to the song that you learned right now, and then
Yep.
the techniques you'll be learning is different, the chords you'll be learning is different. So
Yep.
you end up exploring these different avenues, and you get your variety there. It's not going to be that instantaneous dopamine hit of like watching a brand new TV show or something like that, but you do end up getting the variety. It's just a bit more of a slow burn. So
Yeah.
that's
100%.
that's kind
Agreed.
of certainty and uncertainty in a nutshell. You need a bit of both, but you got to decide for yourself, and don't sort of judge yourself. If you're more of a variety person, then that is what you are. That's kind of how you're
Yeah.
wired. And if you try to force yourself into the box of like, military sergeant discipline, always getting up at the same time, blah blah blah, you're kind of just doing maybe what
Mm,
society or what the latest trend is, rather
true.
than sort of living to your own sort of unique needs. So
Yeah.
you've got those two. Let's move on to the third one, which
Number
is
three,
connection, right?
significance.
Oh,
No,
okay.
significance.
So we're doing it that way.
Significance
Yeah,
or
cool. So
word.
let's talk about
Connect,
significance
connection.
first, and
All
then
right,
loving
significance.
connections is number four,
Number
right?
four.
So
All right, we can do
cool.
that. So significance.
Yep.
I mean, how would you define it?
Dude, significance is an interesting one. It's about feeling special. So, what you want to do is you want to stand out in some way, shape, or form from the crowd. It is a
I have
human
5
need.
words
Go
for
for it.
everyone. You are not a snowflake.
Okay, all right. You're gonna burst everyone's significance bubble right here. All right, go on,
Nah, no, no,
elaborate.
no. Continue. Continue with your thing. Continue with your
Yeah.
thing.
So, okay. In terms of people's need to feel special, even if, let's say, we're all more alike than we are different, we want to feel special. It is a innate desire of ours, right? So, for example, if you look at social media, and why that is so popular, and a part of the cultural
Yeah.
zeitgeist at this point, every person that wants to be an influencer is producing content for free, um, onto this platform, spending their time and effort and skill sets to create something that hopefully puts them in a pedestal above
Yep.
the others who are watching them, right? So the content creators are the ones who are chasing this need for significance. Now, you might be thinking, listening at home, oh no, they're just doing it like for financial reasons. They're trying to like make some money off this thing. It's like, you don't realize the odds of like making money on any sort of social media platform. If you think that, like, it's really low. Most people are not making any money, or if they're making money, it's not worth the amount of effort. They might as well just go back to working their regular jobs. A lot of people are starting off on these platforms for significance, and that goes from like the people creating the most serious content to the people creating like the TikTok dances and hoping that they go viral. They're all trying to get that need for significance so that they stand out in some way, shape, or form. So if you're listening to this going, oh, but that doesn't appeal to me, I don't like, I have social media, but I don't really post much on it. I don't really care if I don't get many likes and stuff like that. Maybe you just have a very low need for significance, or maybe it's being satisfied in some other way. So, like,
Yeah.
for example, with you, Nick, like you were, have a position on a board. You're there like sort of at an elevated status in this environment,
Very
and
true.
you're
Yep.
sort of in that environment getting some of your need for significance met. So
Yep.
maybe if you don't have a million followers on Instagram, or whatever it is, it doesn't really bother you too much because you got this need for significance being filled in other ways, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think the like it's important to figure out um where you're getting it from, and then after that it's also like, well, where should you be getting it from? What is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. It's really up to you, to be honest.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, you're right. Like I think I would personally, I would get it more so from work, from the things that I'm doing, and from the relationships that I have. Um, and that to me, sounds like the right way of going about it, but I don't know. Everyone's different. What about
Yeah.
you? How do you find significance?
Okay, so before I answer that, I think it's a
Yeah.
really good point about like the right and wrong way to get significance. Because the dangerous thing with significance as a human need is anytime you try to chase any metric for significance, there's always going to be someone that's further ahead than you are. So if you try to be significant by being the richest person, right? You're like Mr. Moneybags or Mrs. Moneybags. There's always going to be somebody that's
Yeah.
making more money than you know? So you get to the point where you can buy a yacht and then you look to your right and someone out there is buying a plane. And that's kind of going to eat at you and diminish your feeling of
True.
significance. So it's really important to understand that, yes, this is a human need. Don't judge yourself for it. You can leverage it to become more ambitious in any given area if you feel like you're going to become more significant as you achieve that level of success. But just be careful about where you're trying to place your efforts to get that success. It may leave you with like a void that never quite gets filled, right? So the thing that you're saying, you're getting significance from your work and from your relationships and stuff like that. It's very hard to compare and compete with others in that way of getting your significance met. So,
Yeah.
within your work, you got a finite group of people. And as long as you're doing a good job for the level of experience that you have and you're getting the recognition for that, you're getting your significance met and you're kind of
I
pretty
mean,
satisfied. It's not like you got a
yeah.
sea of people that you're constantly comparing yourself to
Wow.
and putting yourself in an equal platform, right? So
Yeah.
it's a bit healthier than like the social media number of likes, number of
Ish.
followers
Ish.
ish. Okay,
Yeah.
go on.
I mean,
Yeah.
now that I'm thinking about it, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that's actually the wrong thing to say because
Right.
to be honest, I feel like work does fulfill a part of me,
Yeah.
but I feel like for me personally, it's probably not a good thing to find significance from work. We were just chatting just before, right? And I was
Mm.
telling you how like I went to this epic like startup venture capital event today and people would like, it's just mind boggling what some people are doing, the kind of startups they're running, the ideas that they have. Some of them like, I met this one guy, I dropped out of school at 15 and, I started a gajillion businesses and now I'm looking for a new idea. And he's like 50 right now. So he's like done a whole ton of stuff. And essentially what I'm trying to say is like, I think for me, the recipe to not go crazy is to find significance in my relationships. And that way you can't compare.
Mm.
There is no compare. I mean, like, when I was a kid, I would compare how much my parents loved me versus my siblings. But like,
Yeah.
that's a different thing altogether. That's for another episode.
Yeah.
Let's not dig into my childhood insecurities
Yep.
right now. But essentially, it's a lot more limited. The circles are a lot smaller and the people mean more to you than just 5,000 people like your photo or whatever. And trust me, it feels good 100% when people like your stuff. Some of my weightlifting videos, I'm like, yes, a whole bunch of people liked it and saw me do X, Y, and Z. But like at the end of the day, I'm like, nah, it doesn't really matter too much. So yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Anyways,
Yeah.
back to you. On to
No.
you now. How do you find significance, man?
Okay.
I
Yeah.
feel like
So
I've been talking a lot.
no. I think I've been talking a bit more than you, so I really appreciate that. And I think what you said is like a very healthy way to try to achieve significance, and it's probably not the way most people are going about it. So it's good to hear that sort of perspective on how to do it. For me, what I realized is this is a very high human need. So we talked about how I'm more of
Yeah.
like a certainty person than an uncertainty person. Significance is kind of like way up there in terms of my needs, and it's been that way ever since I was young. So I'll give you an example. When I was 16, this was when like YouTube was just kind of popping off and people putting more content in there and stuff like that. And I stumbled across this guy that was doing YouTube drum covers. So he was just doing
Mm.
songs on the drums, playing over the top of backing tracks. And he was doing like a really entertaining version of it. He had like multi-camera recordings. So he'd have like the foot cam, and then he'd have the camera from the left and the camera from the right and the camera over the top of the head and stuff like that. And he would do like a few seconds on each. And it was really entertaining to watch. And I'd watch that and I'd look at like the number of views and the number of likes and the number of subscribers. And I'd be like, wow, this guy's like just a kid, a few years older than me. And he does a really good job. He's great at the drums. But look at all of this notoriety that he's getting by doing all of this stuff. And that really drew me in. And so I started becoming not just a drummer that had a drum kit and knew how to play drums, but a guy who knew how to then video edit and do lighting and do sound and do all this stuff. I taught myself this stuff. I bought myself this equipment. I started a YouTube channel. And why did I do all of that? I did it for significance. If I didn't have that desire to get some significance, I would have just gone, well, I like playing the drums. That's good enough in and of itself. And I probably would have never recorded myself. And there are a lot of musicians that do that. They just play in their bedroom and no one ever knows what they do. But because I got that need for significance, I did all this extra stuff around my talents. So I think from a young age, I was always trying to take my talents and showcase it to the world. And that was my way of getting significance.
Yeah.
But I definitely fell into that trap of like comparing. Once I got the video uploaded, I would like, just be checking the progress bar like every 30 seconds after it's uploaded, going like how many views am I getting now, or like what's happened in the first 24 hours, and looking at the analytics and stuff like that. And that's where it gets a little bit unhealthy, because what you got to do is you got to leverage your need for significance to create your greatest work. And then once you've done that, your job is done. You've kind of milked it for all it's worth. And then it's going to do what it's going to do. It's going to go viral if it goes viral. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Just move on to your next project, the next thing that you're passionate about. And don't try to kind of chase the trends too much. That's kind of my advice to my younger self, because I definitely lost my way from time to time, where I was just chasing that need for significance. And like I said, there's always going to be someone that's got more views than you. There's always someone that's going to be trending a bit harder than you are. So you're always going to be left feeling like you're not a snowflake, that you're insignificant. So it's like kind of counterintuitive when you do that. But yeah, I would say anytime I've kind of leaned on my closer relationships and things like that to get significance, I felt like a lot more satisfied. This is where, like, even using a simple example of like performances, if you're performing for an online audience and you're not seeing that real life immediate feedback, it can be a little bit dissatisfying. Even if you get a bunch of views, but it's like trickles in over years, you're not really going to feel it. It's not going to hit your need for significance. But if you're doing the same thing but in a live environment, even if you only got 50 people in the room but everyone's vibing as you're playing live, that feeling of significance is like way greater in my book. So I've kind of experienced both, and I realize what sort of satisfies me more, so I lean more towards that at my older, wiser age at this point.
True. All right, let's roll on to number 4.
Number
Connection
4.
and love.
Okay, so I want to hear more from you on this one, man.
I want to hear more from
you want to hear more from me? Okay, all right. All right. So what can I say about love and connection, man? Like, I think everyone sort of wants love in their life, right? Like the first thing people think of when they think of love, they think of like a significant partner, significant other, but not everyone has that. Like some people are single, some people are in relationships. If you do find yourself single and you're looking for a relationship and you feel like, what's wrong with me? I should be satisfied like where I am as a single person. Understand that you have a human need for love and connection, and that is what's driving you to at least seek out a partner, right? So this is something that I've had for a while. When I'm single, I'm looking for a relationship. When I'm in a relationship, I'm far more satisfied because I have that human need that's being met. But in the scenario where, like I find myself in at the moment, I'm single and I don't have complete control over changing that. It's just when it happens sort of thing. What do you do in the meantime, right? So this is where connection comes into it. So if I think about the last few years of being single and the way my life has changed in the last few years, I've definitely had a increase in my social circle. Like I've ended up doing all of these things, like we talked about in the previous podcast, to try and connect with more people to kind of compensate for the fact that I don't have the love in my life at this point in time. So if you get a lot of connection, you actually feel like that need is being met. And that's probably the healthiest place to be if you are single at the moment, is to at least get that need met, so you're kind of not coming from a place of, oh, I need this and I'm just going to settle for anything, because you can end
Yeah.
up
Yeah, man.
in a lot of trouble if you're in that predicament. So that's kind of how I think
True.
about love and connection. And coming back to the pets thing, a lot of people do that as well, where they feel like a dog, for
Mm.
example, really feeds into their need for connection, and so they'll get a dog and they'll find that their
Yeah.
mood level quite elevates quite rapidly as a result.
Yeah.
That's not me and you, but it is some people for sure.
Man, the people to give advice about getting pets should not be us.
No.
The both of us are terrible
Yes.
at that stuff. So maybe let's stay away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, love and connection. It's an interesting one. I think that it's not about the amount of connections you have. It's more so that now, with my infinite wisdom, apparently, it's the depth of your connections is what I've realized.
Mm.
So me over the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something, have spoken to at least 10 people a day, which is an insane number of connections.
Really? Wow. I did not
Yes,
know that.
yes.
10 people.
Maybe not the last 2 years, but like
Okay.
previous to that, maybe the past three or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 10 people a day at minimum sort of situation. And that has never once fulfilled me at all. And like, but by the way, like confession, I'm an like compulsive extrovert,
Yeah.
like very extreme extrovert.
Right.
So I need a lot of people contact, but the kind of people contact that I need is like in depth, very, very deep connections with people that are already close to me, or new people that I guess are on the same wavelength as I am.
Mm.
Like
Yep.
we can talk about similar things, or we can challenge each other on things, right? We don't necessarily have to agree about everything, but like we can challenge each other. And I think that's perhaps the most important. Now, whether you're single or not, I think that's probably like the most important. And that's kind of why like I spent the past like 12, 13 months really cultivating friendships, really doing that intentionally. And that's why like we're chatting, and you know I've got more friends now and all of that, and all of the friends that I have are more in-depth relationships. Like that now I put in more effort with like my training partners,
Mm.
because I train with them all the time and I see them 4 days a week, 2 hours each time, so like 8-10 hours a week. So I have to spend a lot more time with them and do all of that. And then the partner thing, I think that is very important, yes. Emotional connection, in-depth connection, yes. But at the same time, like having been very single for a very long time, um, yeah, like friends, in-depth connections, probably most important thing. First and foremost, don't be a loner.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Where what I sort of touched on was the quantity of connections, and then what you talked about is the quality of the connections as
Yeah.
well. And I think they both sort of go hand in hand. Where
Yes.
in the
Yes.
beginning, if you, let's say you find yourself being a loner and you have no one, you're
Yes.
starting from zero, then just go try
Yeah.
to meet as many people as you can, because you're not just going to vibe with every person straight off the bat. It's a bit of trial and error. If you meet sort of 10 people
Yeah.
this month, you might connect with one or two of them. And then if you meet 10 more people next month and you got another few, and then you get to the point where you kind of know for yourself how many people is kind of the right amount. When you get to the point where you don't have the time to like maintain those friendships, then you realize that you probably don't need to go chasing for more. You can kind of just maintain the
Yep.
ones that you have, right? Because, and
Agreed.
you know, like friendships are an interesting thing where you don't break up with your friends. You literally just stop making time for them, and then the friendship kind of starts to evaporate. And there's some
You
people where,
ghost them.
and well, yeah, but like you know,
You
literally,
ghost them.
like
That's what happens.
if you stopped calling me and I stopped calling you, and then we kind of just did our own thing.
Yeah.
It's not like there'd be like some dramatic like we have some beef or anything like that. But over time, we wouldn't really know what the other person is up to, and it would slowly start
That's
to
true. That's
we would
true.
slowly start to drift apart. Now, the good thing with friendships is just as easily as they drift apart, you can always just connect back up. It's nothing strange. Like I've done it plenty of times where I've just called up a guy that I haven't spoken to like in over a year and say, "Hey man, how's it going? Like what you been doing in life?" And you know, it might be a little bit strange, like, "Oh, why is this guy calling me? I haven't
Yeah.
heard from him
I was about to
in
say.
a couple of years or something like that." But if you just kind of make that genuine connection and just start the conversation in the beginning, you'll find that people kind of open up, and it's like a pleasant surprise because that doesn't happen very often in today's society. I don't think so. Yeah, definitely
Agreed.
that's a way. If you feel like you are a loner, you know, just think back to like who was a close friend with a couple of years back. Like, let's give them a call, see how it goes.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe they're dying to catch up with you too. So yeah,
True.
I agree with everything. In depth conversations, opening up, not being sort of so guarded. You know, it's okay. Nobody's perfect, and when you sort of
Yeah.
share yourself more openly with other people, they'll often do the same back
Yeah.
to you, and that's how the quality connection happens for sure.
100%.
Cool,
100%. Yeah. Friends first, then partner. I would definitely say. Because
interesting.
like
Yeah,
I think at the end of the day, right?
yeah,
Like even if you get a partner, to be
yeah.
honest, man, they can't fulfill like everything,
This is true. Yeah, yeah,
right?
and that's a very
Like
healthy thing to
that's
say.
why
Yeah.
you have friends as well.
Hmm.
Man, if you only have one partner and that's it, man, you're in for a ride, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they can't be everything, right? Like one thing with like a lot of male connections, like let's
Yeah.
use like straight males as an example, like both of us
Yeah.
are. Like I have so many like male friends where we'll just hang out and just talk crap about stuff, just you know, just shoot the shit sort of thing.
Yep.
And it's like the best fun ever. And
Yeah.
I've never had that sort of dynamic with a female, you know. So it's kind of like if I'd had a female partner, I would probably like reserve the more like serious conversations and connections with them, and then I would just be talking shit with the boys, you know, when
Yep.
I'm with the guys. So it's kind of like it meets two different needs, and
Yep.
you're just a happier person
100%.
if you have both.
That's it.
Yeah,
Completely agree with that. All
yeah,
right.
cool.
Number
All
5,
right.
growth and progress.
Yep, growth and progress.
Yep.
All right.
Gro-
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
So this one, it's interesting. The last two, so
Yep.
we've talked about four so far. The last two, it's not something that everyone tries to attain in their life. But what Tony Robbins says is if you put an effort in these last two areas, try to fill those two buckets, you will feel more alive than the average person that's kind of just in survival mode. So if you're doing the first four, uh, whether you try to or not, you're kind of subconsciously doing them, and you're in survival mode. So you know, if you find yourself a loner, you will naturally try to reach out to people. If you find your life is in chaos, you will naturally try to control some of the variables, stuff like that. But the last two, a lot of people don't think about. So definitely think about this, and you will take your life to the next level in terms of life satisfaction. The fifth one that we're about to talk about, growth and progress. This can be in a whole lot of different areas, but understand that it is a human need. So, you know, a lot of people try to vilify or demonize people's need for growth. They'll say like it's a unfettered desire. It's like it's an ugly thing. It's like a pursuit of more. Nothing is ever enough. But it's just a natural human trait. If we think about
Yeah.
where we used to be as a species like thousands of years ago, we were like cavemen who hadn't invented fire. And then now we're here with all of this technology. Like, how did that happen? That's because every human being tried to grow a little bit beyond where they were in their current circumstances. So it is a human condition to be that little bit dissatisfied and then try to get to that next level to try to get that satisfaction. So that's part of life. So, for example, you're in pretty good shape, Nick. Most people would love to have your physique, but you're not satisfied. You're going to that next level because you're trying to compete. And instead of, if someone came up to you and said to you, hey, man, you should be satisfied where you are right now and don't try to
Oh
get any
man,
better.
I actually have a story about that.
Okay, go on. Tell us.
Legitimately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started out bodybuilding
Yeah.
like years ago. Anyway, maybe like 10 years ago or something. I had a best friend at the time. And year 7 to year 12, man, we did everything together. We were pretty much in the same classes, more or less in the same classes, talked about everything and anything under the sun. We gamed together. We talked about girls together. Man, we like went out together, hung out, did everything. Anyways, when I started doing bodybuilding and when I started dieting, like, one of the requirements of bodybuilding is that you diet. You have a healthy diet so that you can put on muscle and stay lean, et cetera, et cetera. Anyways, what broke the friendship was what he said to me. And what he said was, oh man, why are you doing bodybuilding? You're so superficial. It's just all about looks. It's just all about that. Like, why can't you just come out and party? And yeah, it's a very classic example, but that's literally what he said. That was one of the times. The other time, like, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And that was he invited me to a party knowing full well I don't party, I don't drink, and I haven't for like, I do on occasion, but like I don't go nuts with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, he had a bike license, by the way. He can ride a motorbike. I was like, hey, why don't you like take your bike there? You've got a bike license. He's like, nah, but then I can't drink. You can be the designated driver. I'm like, so you invited me to be the designated driver? He's like, yeah. Immediately, goodbye.
Yeah.
Click. Blocked him, deleted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude.
The last time I saw him, maybe like last year,
Yeah.
just to like have a chat and like, hey, maybe that wasn't the most mature thing to do, but hey, I still stand by the fact that you're a piece of crap and and you're a dick for doing that.
Right.
But anyways, we have nothing in common anymore, and I kind of don't want to be friends with you. So that's that. I didn't say that. I was very, very amicable, very nice. I was just like, hey, what are you doing with your life? Great. It's different to mine. Let's not talk after this. Sweet.
Gotcha. Yeah. So how old were you when you did that, like the designated driver thing, and then you blocked him? I'm just curious to know
18.
your age. 18. Okay. Gotcha. So
I was 18.
even at that age, you kind of knew your boundaries and you were like, this is what I'm trying to do with my life. I'm trying to achieve this a greater level than where I am currently. And you're not on board with that, even though you're my friend. You're kind of hindering that. You're not respecting me and my values, and you got to go. So this is an interesting thing that most people probably wouldn't do at your age. Like, they would feel the peer pressure, because that's a classic peer pressure move of someone just telling you to do something. You kind of don't want to be too, abrasive, so you kind of go along with it. That's what the typical person does, right? And so you end up becoming the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with, because you don't want to be too disagreeable, you don't want to offend anyone. And so if you got 4 other friends that are just all about the party lifestyle, and you're trying to become a healthier version of yourself, you probably often end up going down the path that they're going down, because the peer pressure is too hard to handle, right? And you're probably not that strong-willed. So I'm not talking about you, obviously, Nick. I'm talking about like the average person that finds himself in that predicament. And, eventually they may end up sort of finding their true north and then getting down that path, but they might waste sort of years in the progress just because they happen to be across the wrong type of people for the goals they have. So definitely, if we can sort of instill one message to the listener when it comes to growth, it's like, growth is a human need. If you are trying to
Yep.
grow in an area that is positive, more power to you. And if anybody tries to slow you down, they do not have your best interests at heart, right? So sometimes you can't just block the person. There might be like someone
Unblock your
that's
mom.
yeah, 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 exactly. They might be an integral
Bye.
part of your life, but
Ghost your mom.
you gotta you gotta
Hey, I
you,
mean, hey, look, you got to do what you got to do.
you
And
gotta do
look,
what you
I'm,
gotta
I'm not
do.
saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong,
Yeah.
but like, hey, if that's necessary,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
make your own decisions,
yeah.
right?
So like a more sort of softer way than blocking your mum is to maybe have a conversation with
Boundaries.
them. Like recently, for example, I'm spending a bit of time with the family,
Yeah.
and I'm on a pretty strict diet compared to what I used to be eating, and it's all to do with my fitness goals and body composition goals and stuff like that. And it basically requires me to eat all the stuff that nobody else wants to eat, super healthy, super bland type stuff.
All the stuff
And
that rabbits eat.
yeah, exactly. And so right now, mums being mums will just offer you food. It's coming from a
True.
place of love,
Yeah.
but it's not moving me towards the goals that I want to go down. So I just had to say, like, look, for the next 3 months, I'm basically not eating any food that anyone else is preparing for me. I'm just kind of eating this stuff. Sometimes my willpower will break down and I'll end up doing that and I'll end up cheating and stuff like that. At the end of the day, I am human and that will happen from time to time. But I don't want that added temptation. So, like, just so you understand, this is kind of where I'm trying to go at this
Yeah.
point in time. And so, as soon as I said that, she totally understood. And, she's my mom. She understands me as well as anybody does. So she knows I'm pretty
Yeah.
ambitious guy, and so if I put my head down on something, I will sort of take it seriously and try to follow through on it as much as possible. So she's like, okay, yeah, got it. I'll try to refrain from it, and
Yeah.
so it kind of works that way without sort of burning that bridge. But yeah, definitely, if you are an ambitious person, that is not a bad thing, right? We have this thing called tall poppy syndrome in Australia, where it's like if
Yeah.
anytime you try to excel above the pack, there's like this tendency for people to try to sort of bring you back in, and understand that that is going against your need for growth. And what you'll probably end up having is resentment. So if you just kind of try to stay with the rest of the pack, even though you know you're capable of something so much greater, you will end up resenting the people that you're around. So you might be doing it thinking like, oh, this will keep me more connected. It's pretty lonely at the top, etc., etc. No, no, no. Definitely, if people are holding you back, you can kind of distance yourself from them, and you will end up finding people that are sort of at your level or above your level that you will aspire towards. So that will
That's true.
constantly happen in your life as you try to achieve greatness. You will
Yeah.
meet greatness around you. So definitely need for growth. Don't try to dismiss
Agreed.
it. Have it as part of your life. Now, we spent a lot of time talking about like fitness because we use that as your example and I use that as my
Yeah.
example, but there is career goals, there's
Yeah.
financial
Yeah.
goals, there's goals in, in
100%.
in almost every
Everything.
area. You
Yeah.
can grow in so many different ways. You can become a better talker, you can be a better listener, you can be, so
Yeah.
many different things.
And there's so many ways to like meet new people with that, with like the whole speaking thing. There's like Toastmasters, there's other speaking groups. With music things, there's musical clubs and whatnot as well. Dancing, salsa clubs, as Marnie knows all about,
Yep.
and bachata and all of that. Yeah, so there's like clubs in every single thing. So I think the concern shouldn't be like, oh, I can't find friends after this. It's the concern's like, or it should be like, shit, there's too many people out there.
Yes.
I need to whittle them down.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the problem that I had not too long ago. I was like, oh man, crap. Like I'm getting invited to too many events now. Crap. I need to like cut my friends. Nah. I need to start culling them. No, no,
Yeah.
no. No, but yeah, it's a good feeling once you like really put an intentional effort into like developing those relationships. But anyways, all right,
100%.
that's that.
Yep.
Number 6, contribution beyond ourselves. So doing stuff for other people.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something that everyone knows about, but doesn't necessarily do. In saying that, I feel like contribution beyond ourselves doesn't always have to be like a massive thing.
Yes.
Sometimes I actually saw your story today
Okay.
and I saw that you sponsor a child.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
So that
Yep.
wasn't intentional with the podcast, it's just a coincidence. But yeah, definitely
Yep.
I've been sponsoring this
Brownie
child for
points, mate.
like, oh,
Brownie
thank you. Thank
points.
you. Yep. Yep. So yeah, I've been doing that for 8 years now. So
Yep.
yeah, since he was 7 and he's 15 now. So yeah, it's definitely a rewarding thing. So that is like a financial contribution basically.
Yep.
Every month there's a certain amount that goes from my bank account into the fund, and it basically gives them the necessities, basic necessities. So
Yep.
food, clothing, and education. Like
Education.
that's pretty
Yeah.
much it. It's in a developing country, and so yeah, the kid needs those things in order to
Yep.
develop and get beyond that sort of poverty line, and
Yeah.
make something of himself as he grows
Yeah.
up. So yeah, that's a great way to contribute, and obviously if
Yep.
everybody did things like that, the world would be a better place. And like you said, that's kind of common sense. Everybody knows that, but it doesn't always need to be like a very big thing. So
Yeah.
I sort of realized about 8 years ago, yeah, I can afford this. I can sponsor a child. It's not going to break the bank.
Yep.
I'm not going to go
Yeah.
hungry if
It's
I
like
sponsor.
$50 a month.
Yeah,
It's not
it's I think
crazy.
it's $60 a month, and look, it's
Yeah.
something that I could do at that point. I'd already started working full time, and so I decided, yep,
Yep.
let me
Yeah.
just
It's nothing crazy.
go
And
go
it's
ahead and do
tax
that.
deductible, FYI.
It is,
Or in
yeah,
Australia anyways.
yep,
Yeah, I also do the same. I did it maybe in like 2020, 2019, something like that.
nice,
Once I
yeah,
started working full time.
yeah,
Then I started sponsoring a child as well.
yeah. So
I think I think
this is a classic thing of contribution, classic
yeah,
example of contribution.
like a really easy one to
Yeah.
do.
And because it's just financial and literally just is direct debited from my account, I don't have to sit there like every month like remembering to like transfer funds and stuff like that. It doesn't actually take any ongoing effort. It's kind of just like
Yeah.
you make that
Automated.
decision, you automate it, and then it just
Yep.
happens sort of with or without you type of thing. As long as there's enough money in the bank account, it'll kind of go through. So that's kind of no time commitment, or like a one-off time commitment, and
Yeah.
then the rest is just a financial contribution. But if you don't have like the finances and you want to contribute with your time, some would argue that that is actually even more generous, because you can always make more money,
True.
but you can never get back your time. So if you take some time out of your schedule to help people, to contribute to your society, then what you're doing is a really noble thing. So let's think about like some of the ways that people can contribute, and tie it back to the like why is this a need. I guess we can finish off with that. But
Yeah.
the ways that I think about it is sometimes you can just integrate it into your work. So when I think about what I do for work at the moment, I'm in a senior position working as an engineer, and it took me a while to understand all the fundamentals of the role that I now sit in, because
Yeah.
it's a lot of stuff that isn't taught at university, because it's a very niche field. And so as I learnt those things, instead of just sort of hoarding it for myself and going, okay, now I have all these skills and I'm a very valuable staff member, I'm going to keep that to myself because supply and demand economics, and I can use that to ask for a better pay rise and stuff like that. That would be like a very, selfish way to look at it. The way I looked at it is like, I've got all these skill sets that's actually really hard to acquire and really valuable. How about I just teach people how to do this stuff? Because that's part of why they hire senior people, so they can train the junior people. And it's kind of a circle of life. They end up learning the stuff that you now know, and then they can train more people. And that's how you grow as a company, and that's how you get rid of skill shortages and things like that. So I sort of took that on, took life by the balls, took this task on by the balls, and just really, put a lot of time and effort into that. And what I ended up getting was like a lot of recognition. And so it ended up filling a lot of that significance bucket that we're talking about before anyways. That wasn't sort of my intention going into it. It's more about the contribution. But, you know, there's that old saying of like, when you give, you end up getting more in return. And so this is kind of how it ends up working out. If you're generous with your time and you put in a genuine effort, people will appreciate that. And, you know, in a world that's like
Very true.
relatively
Yep.
self-centered, when you do that and it is genuine, people will notice it and people will return the favor. So yeah, I would say that's a way that you could contribute with your time, with your talents, the gifts that you have to bear, sort of
Yep.
finding ways to give more of yourself to others. So for me, it's always been like education. I've always been someone that likes
Yeah.
teaching. So I learn a skill and then I want to teach it. So I had like a drum lessons business, which was something that it didn't make a lot of sense to most people. Like, why are you doing that when you're already working as an engineer? Like, do you not get paid enough as an engineer? It's like, you know, it wasn't about the money. It was the fact that I could contribute in this way. I didn't see a lot of great drum teachers out there. And I thought, okay, this is an area where I can sort of add value to the world. So this is like just a couple of
Mm.
examples that are specific to me, but as you're listening to me talk, maybe you're thinking of ideas for yourself. Like, actually, I'm really good at this thing. I'd like to contribute more in this way. So you can always do that. And I'm always looking for more ways to contribite. So if
Yeah.
anyone of you listening has a good idea, I'd love to hear it and see if I can incorporate it into my schedule.
Yeah. I think contribution revolves around like three things, right? I heard someone say this: time, talent, and treasures.
Okay, interesting. Yep,
Yeah.
I would
That's
agree with
probably
that.
like the easiest way to summarize it. So what can I do with my time?
Yep.
Or who can I give my time to? Um, what can I do with my talents? And what can I do with my treasures? As in like, all your gifts and whatnot.
Yep.
Sorry, your finances and whatnot.
Yep.
So yeah, there's multiple ways of doing it. I will say now I used to, because I don't so much anymore. But I used to volunteer for church and help set the place up and did all of that for like throughout COVID,
Yep.
like pre-COVID and then like after COVID, and then 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning. That was rough.
Yeah. And
But
that's
anyways,
that's like I would say more impressive than like sort of deducting a bit of your salary and sort of giving it to
oh yeah,
someone.
yeah, for
And
sure. No,
yeah,
but like, you don't contribute to earn brownie points,
no,
right? This is not like your ticket to heaven, right?
yeah,
This is certainly not like Qantas points, right?
yeah,
Like you're not gonna get status
no,
credits. Like I was just looking at my status credits for Qantas. I was like, sweet, I got credited for all the flights that I took this entire year.
mm,
Um, finally, after a very long time. But anyways, yeah, this is not
no,
Qantas points. That's for sure. This is not like, oh, you will get a spot in heaven or anything like that. It's just like, hey, you do because you want to help people. You do because you want to make the world a better place. And that's kind of it.
yep,
There's no like real there's no really any other motive. And in saying that, you also get some significance from doing that as well, because like I'm actually contributing to the world. I'm contributing to a good cause. I'm actually doing something beyond myself, like
mm.
for other people.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And another way to think about this is that whole thing we talked about, the evolution of mankind, going from
Mm.
like the person without the fire living in a cave to like where we are now because of the constant growth. If we just thought in a self-centered manner as a species, we wouldn't actually get to where we are. The reason why we get to where we are is we are actually quite altruistic. We want to
Yep.
contribute to a tribe that is bigger than ourselves.
True.
So find whatever tribe you care about and contribute to that, and that is you living as naturally as you can with like the human spirit, I guess. So a lot of
Yep.
the time, people will say like, and I'm not a psychologist or anything. This is just what I've heard so time and time again from different people. But some of the most depressed people in the world are some of the most self-centered people in the world. So if you kind of always think about yourself and you think about all of your problems and you're
Yep.
consumed with that, some of the quickest ways to get yourself out of that mental trap
Yeah.
is to look outwards and go, oh, hang on, everybody's got
Interesting.
problems. Everyone's got something that they're contending with. And I can
Yeah.
actually help this person quite easily with a problem that they're struggling with that I've just been,
Yep.
blessed with the gifts of. So,
Mm.
just doing that, getting outside of yourself, you will end up getting so much more back in return. So I can't believe it, but we've actually done all 6 of these human needs and talked a little bit about each of them in this podcast. How are we going for time, man? How long have we been talking for?
A lot of time, that's for sure.
Okay.
In typical short story long format
Yep.
for a very long time.
Yes. Should we?
I mean,
shall we draw
look,
this to a
to be
close?
honest, between the both of us, it feels like 5 seconds.
Yes.
To some people, it certainly felt like an eternity. But hey, hey yo,
Well,
we're here anyways.
You know what? You're welcome, guys. This is our contribution to you. So, the
it,
most
that's
arrogant way to finish off the
Hey,
podcast.
you know what?
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
We're not even doing. We have no ads. We're not even doing this for money.
That's
So
true.
like, we're literally doing this for the heck of it,
Yes.
just for fun. There was a discussion before this of like, oh, should we like try and make money out of it? And both of us were like, nah, stuff it. It's all good. We like it's just literally a fun thing to do. So
100%, man. So
Yeah.
I guess like this for me, this podcast, it ticks the variety bucket. I've never done a podcast before. Let's
Me
sort of
too.
see how it goes, and we'll sort of figure it out on the fly. It ticks the significance bucket. How many people do we know in our friendship group that has a podcast? It definitely helps us stand out in
Yep.
in one way or another. In terms of connections, it leads to some interesting conversations. Like I was telling you before, conversations that I had the other day with some of my friends, I realized were instigated from the podcast. The fact that they listened to it and then they were asking questions that are related to how to connect with people and stuff, because that was the topic of our last podcast. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I don't normally talk to this person about this stuff, but now they're
Yeah.
kind of asking me because maybe they're struggling in this area of their life and they're trying to branch out and meet new people. So it helps me with connection as well, connecting to people that are already in my life. So yeah, it's like it gives me so much at the end of the day. So if I'm doing this and it's contributing to someone else, that meets another human need. But as we said, it gives you so much back in return, and that's how most of the
100%.
things related to contribution work. If you think about it sort of long enough, you realize you are getting something great back in return. So
Definitely.
yeah, I think that's a great place to end it. In terms of a call to action to our viewers, if you got any value out of this podcast, if you're listening on Spotify or you're listening on YouTube or watching, please smash the subscribe button so you can get more content as they're released. We try to release an episode once a week, but there might be some inconsistencies here or there, so you will always be notified if you
Yep.
subscribe and hit the notification bell and all that type of jazz. But do you have any parting words for our listeners, Nick, before we go?
Some inconsistency is good in life. So it's fine if we don't post every week
Yeah.
because it gives people a bit of variety.
I love it. I love it, dude. Mr. Positive
Good to
Spin.
come full circle, hey.
I love it, man. I'll catch you later, dude.
All right.
Take care.
That's a wrap. Done.
See ya.